Welcome to the Premium Mindset, the weekly podcast where homegrown entrepreneurs and business owners, Evan Ritchey and Cameron Bawden, share the good, the bad, and the ugly of modern entrepreneurship and reveal what really happens behind the scenes of their personal and professional lives. As owners of two of America's fastest growing and most disruptive companies, Coconut Cleaning and Green Mango Pest Control, stay tuned for real stories, struggles, insight, and advice from real entrepreneurs in real time.
Hello and welcome.
Oh my God.
To today's episode on the Premium Mindset. My name's Evan Ritchey, co-owner of Coconut Cleaning, and my co-host today, as always, is yours truly, Cameron Bawden, also co-owner of Coconut Cleaning, founder and CEO of Green Mango Pest Control, founder, CEO of Agave Auto Glass, and just an all-around great guy, great father, great husband. Cameron, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on your show.
You're welcome. I'm excited to talk about today's...
We got some good stuff today, Evan.
It's the best stuff. It's primarily geared towards other entrepreneurs.
Okay.
But also customers will appreciate our approach and how we remedy accidents. Let's call them accidents, okay? It takes so much effort to get a customer bought in on leaving a 5-star review, but it is so easy to make one mistake and they want to tell 20 to 30 people about that mistake. So today we're going to talk about the mistakes that businesses make.
We can talk about when Coconut hit the house with the van, or
we're going to talk
we're
about
going to get deep here.
We're going to
do?
go real deep. That was a bad day. Here's what I love, because what was new to entrepreneurship for me was, hey, Cameron, giving you that first phone call a couple months in with a new employee. You know what? Andrew, my first employee's first day, he was accused of stealing jewelry. You remember that?
No.
I called you and I said, what the heck do I do in this situation? It's Andrew's first day. I knew him from a previous company. The customer at his last job called in and said, hey, we just moved out of that house. The last thing we left was jewelry. Your guy stole it.
You know what's funny about that?
What? And
I want to hear that story. But you remember the exact same thing happened with me with an employee. I don't want to drop the names here, but my brother's best friend, okay, technician goes into his house, calls me after and says, hey, your boy just stole my wife's wedding ring. It was on the dresser. Yeah. This guy had been with me for, I think, 5 years at the time, one of my top managers.
I remember this, yeah.
And I'm like, bro, there's no way this guy stole your wife's wedding ring. He makes good money. He's been with me for 5 years. I know who he is, but I was having a hard time because this is my brother's best friend. Yeah. Okay. It went so far as to, I almost said his name. He had to take a lie
detector test.
Because he passed, we didn't pay for the person's ring. 3 months ago, he called me. He's like, hey, I just want you to know.
Now, how many years later?
8?
8 years later.
No, okay. 5, at least 5. He said, hey, I just want you to know that I found out that it was my cousin who stole the ring. He's in prison now. But that's the crap you deal with as an entrepreneur.
Now I have more questions. How do you even, where do you go and get a lie detector test? A regular person from the public, you go to a police station?
Well, here's the thing. Yeah. But here's the thing. As an entrepreneur, you have this, at least for me, I had this boundary. Okay, if it's a couple grand, let's just pay for it. Like you said, it's not worth having those bad 5-star or 2-star reviews. Pay the couple grand, but when it starts to get north of $5,000, $10,000, I think he wanted us to pay $12,000 for this wedding ring. It's like, whoa, hold on. We need to look into things a little bit deeper. If it's the small stuff, and so it's all relative, right? What's small to you might not be small to someone else, and so we need to hone in on that. And I feel like as a company owner, you need to have, I think about that saying, right? When you're a little kid about drugs, just say no.
Yeah.
With this, you need to just say yes up to a certain amount. Don't worry about the details. The customer is always right. If it's under, I have in my mind, if it's under $2,500, just go take care of it and try and get it fixed. If it's over $2,500, we're doing a little bit more investigating.
So from a reconciliation standpoint, let's talk about the situation where Cameron, as an owner, has made the decision, $2,500 and below, we're just going to rectify it immediately. What's your next steps internally with the employee, even though the customer's like, okay, thank you? Does that admit guilt even though like the employee's doubling down saying, dude, I didn't do that thing.
They're accusing us. And luckily, at least for us and our service companies, they're mostly little things. Hey, your guy broke a pot in the backyard with his hose, or hey, the hose bit broke today. And then we have what happened a couple months ago. Hey, your tech almost got in a fist fight with my neighbor because he was parked in front of his driveway, right? If it's small, they're accusing you of the pot. Who cares? It's a pot. Go pay the $100 if you're admitting guilt. It shows. If you don't fight it, hey, I'm sorry, we're a premium service. Where'd you get the pot? Let's go out and let's get it taken care of. You need to have that, and that's going to make that customer stick even longer. The customer's almost wanting you to fight. And anytime you just give in on a fight, we've all done that with our friends or family or spouse. You're fighting them and they're not fighting back and they just give in. You're like, oh, like what? Like let's keep going here.
Not that big of a deal, yeah.
Yeah, so just give in. It's okay. You're wrong. So you're in the service industry. You're wrong.
What are the next steps for you? You take care of the customer. Are you implementing operational policies to mitigate that happening again? Like, what are your next steps as the owner when things like that happen?
So I'm working on a rotating training that's on a rotating schedule. I'm trying to hit every 6 weeks. So every 6 weeks, you're going to have the same training or at least the same topic. Hopefully it's not the same training, but a different topic, right? Ideally, driver safety or, rapport with the customer, or even being careful around the house with little things that are happening. So let's say the technician broke a pot. Okay. What I used to not do is write the technician up. It seems small. Hey man, be careful with your hose. Like stop messing around. You know how to, we call it hose control your hose, which kind of sounds funny, but it's like, dude, watch where your hose is going. Okay. I used to not write them up. You need to write them up, because if he breaks it another time, and you need to decide what's this worth. If this guy's broke 3 pots in a row, 4 pots in a row, I'll tell you, for us, if a guy breaks 3 pots, it's like, bro, like see you later. And you can't just let him go if you don't have any written proof and write-ups. And the reason why we've doubled down as a company on write-ups, it's difficult at first to get used to that, but people take it more seriously. And you have that proper documentation for HR purposes, and you can't go wrong. Right. And it provides a time to train. And so the first action courses, ideally, it would be in that 6-week rotation. We're talking about whatever type of safety we're talking about. If he runs into the houses, we're talking about how to drive and how to back up, or maybe having your technician help you back up. Right.
I was going to, the train of thought is, what about the intangible accidents like reputation, where a Green Mango guy is under the 120-degree weather, he's at his 16th house of the day, regardless of who's in the right, who's in the wrong, he tells the next door neighbor to F off, right? There's no amount to that where you can say it's a pot, here's $100, here's a write-up. We actually just recently had a situation. I was very surprised how you handled it, because immediately I think you go to termination, but the neighbor actually presented maybe a win-win, where he got to speak his mind to the employee and the employee got to keep his job. But what about the accidents that don't necessarily have an amount of damage? Like, what's your approach, not only for you going in and assessing it, but also how do you, as you scale and get bigger, how do you help train management on to understand the impact of reputation?
I think it's important as a company that you have the non-negotiables. So for us, it's texting and driving. That's one of the non-negotiables. You ever get caught texting and driving, you've been with us for 5 years, 6 years, 8 years, you're done. And that used to be hard for me to think about, but I have to sleep well at night knowing that, hey, if he's so disrespectful to me that he's going to text and drive my asset, why do I feel bad for letting him go? It's very clear. Everyone knows it. Right. Fighting with the customer, yelling with the customer, telling a customer to F off, there's no room for that. I don't care who you are and what kind of day you're having. Okay, we've all had horrible days. You can still compose yourself as a person and not lose it on a customer.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the situation that happened a couple weeks ago. I could be prefacing it wrong, but long story short, the technician not only kind of told a neighbor to kind of screw off, but also left a little note on Green Mango material at their door saying, screw off, basically. This guy calls. He gets.
That's
to
the
Cameron.
G version.
Yeah, that's the G rated version. But this guy ends up getting your number, and tell me about the situation and why you were okay with the conclusion.
The houses were really close together.
Yeah, driveway, yeah.
And so the technician was parked in front of this neighbor's driveway, which is a no-no for us, but it gets difficult in some of these neighborhoods that are really close. So he's parked in the neighborhood in the driver's in front of the neighbor's driveway. He's filling up his tank, and the neighbor comes out and asks him to move. And the guy tells him essentially like, hey, I'm going to be another 5-10 minutes. And this is where it's he said, she said, but they started to get in a fight about
A verbal.
verbal. And even the customer admitted when I was talking to him that he lost his cool. Technician lost his cool. They were yelling at each other, almost got into a fist fight. The guy went back inside. And when the technician finished his job filling up his tank, he went ahead and wrote a very kind letter to the guy telling him how big of a piece of crap he is and put it on his doorstep. But not just on a sticky note, like you said, on a green mango pamphlet. Oh my gosh. What was cool about this customer is he called me.
Business owner, right? This customer was also business. It sounded
actually,
like
he was.
Yeah.
The managers were handling it. Everything was good. They were going to talk, all this stuff. But it was like the note for me, I would have called him anyways. But like having this note on a green mango material, I'm like, I got to call this guy as the owner and make sure he knows like this is not okay. And so I call him. I said, look, this is one of the non-negotiables for me. Like this guy will be let go. I'm so sorry. He wasn't a customer of ours. He was the neighbor to the customer. I said, look, I don't know who you use for service, what you do. I was offering him coconut services for free. Hey, I'll come take care of your house for a year. Whatever we need to do, I want you to know I don't stand for this. And the technician's, at fault here. I don't care what you did. That's just unacceptable. And the customer was like, hey, I don't want you to let him go. I don't know what this kid's going through in his life, but for him to snap the way that he did, something has to be going on. And so what I would love to do is I would love to come in. I would love to apologize to him. And that's when he admitted that he lost his cool. He's like, I didn't help the situation because I lost it, but I want to sit down with him and I want to apologize to him and just, talk through it. And I said, okay, we'll do that. So I said, but here's the thing. I'm like, once again, this is one of my non-negotiables, but depending on the technician's body language, when you apologize, if he's, stands strong and doesn't apologize back and just kind of like, yeah, you're in the wrong, screw you. If he has that mentality, I told him I'm going to have to let him go. Like I can't stand for that. And it's the cancer within the company. You have to be careful and control when you have even if you had 2 technicians, you can't let bad behavior be okay.
Right.
He agreed that if the technician, had this mentality in the meeting that I could let him go. We had the meeting planned. The technician never showed up.
Oh, I'd never even followed up.
So
did he quit?
He quit. We never heard from him.
Oh
He's
my gosh.
gone.
Well, I guess that.
But that's what we were willing to do. And I thought that was really cool from the customer standpoint, but we never had the meeting. And so, yeah, let's talk about your house, man.
Okay.
Let's talk about the van backing into the house.
Well, so
the carport.
That was probably my first experience where I was like, we're out of business. I didn't know about like insurance. Like we had insurance, but I didn't know.
This was last week.
This was a couple days ago. This is at a point where we had our top guy getting ready to become a franchisee with another top guy becoming a franchisee.
You're like, this is the best of the best that we got.
Top of the line. They're backing up into
a carport, right?
A carport, and it's in Mason. It's one of those like lower roofs, whatever. And the customer has this video of the van backing up, and he backs up right. He backs up right into the carport. This guy's big Tongan, okay? He pulls forward 5 feet, gets out, and he totally the way he hit the carport, the actual support beam moved. And he grabbed the support beam and like lifted up. And the customer's looking at him as he's doing this. He's like, I got it. It's fine.
He's like, hey, this will buff out.
It's just like, and he calls me and he's like, yeah, so this customer's freaking out because I hit their roof, but
I fixed
you
it.
know, I fixed it. And the video is just him grabbing this support beam of a car,
From the carport, the roof.
of the carport, and he moves it back. And I called you and I'm like, dude, we're done. Like, they're saying it's their whole roof. And one, I didn't know about insurance, and how that really works. And so, side note, if you are in any sort of industry that comes onto property that is not yours, and also just your own property, have insurance. But two, what's interesting is that person stayed with the company and he's actually a franchisee. So here's how I approached the situation. One, I called you. I said, this customer has it on film. How do I approach the situation where clearly we're at fault, but they even went a little bit farther and they said, we found stress fractures in the roof on the other side of the house. And
yeah, they're always going to milk it. And that's where you got to lay out a solution and, hey, it's $5,000. Let us take care of this $5,000. And then you get experts involved.
We had Kim go out.
Yeah.
And your brother-in-law who does construction, he goes out. Bottom line, at no point did we make the customer feel like we were trying to get out of it. We always made them feel like, hey, this is a hip to hip thing. We're going to help you through this and we're going to resolve this. The employee was very apologetic. And not only was this an opportunity where I knew it would never happen again with that person, but we also made them over like safety protocols. We doubled down and said, hey, here's how you learn from this. You're going to be over inspections and you're going to be over like safety and protocols and backing up. I won't say the customer is always right. I have learned that. I will say, back to like coming full circle, that same day that customer called in and said, your employee stole jewelry. When I called Andrew, I said, did you do this? He said, Evan, I promise you, I didn't touch anything. I called that customer back and I said, I'm sorry. I will help you in the police report that you want to file, but he did not steal jewelry. And in that case, it worked out, where a week later, the wife called in. She's like, I don't know what my husband's thinking. That was the first thing I moved when we moved. And I don't know why he was thinking that. So I'm totally sorry. But for a good week, I'm like, man, this guy's probably out telling everybody that we stole jewelry.
Yeah.
And it sucks from the ownership standpoint, where you work so hard to build a good reputation on honesty, integrity, and how quickly that can fade away if you don't take care of customers, especially if you don't have communication, which is why I love the fact that you hopped right on the phone with that person where you said, look, this guy wrote on branded material. You're on the branded material. So he probably wrote right over you and said, hey, F off. You decided to make that call and have communication. So from an entrepreneurial standpoint, make sure you're staying in communication with customers, whether you damage something, whether they're saying, hey, you flipped, one of your employees flipped us off. Just always making sure that you stay in communication. And again, not necessarily a blanket of the customer is always right, but I will say more often than not, giving the customer enough options to make them feel like they're coming up with the solution is definitely the way to go in those situations.
No, I love that. And I just want to add, there's that aspect of business to where the person that's made the mistake has learned from that. Yeah. And so that's why I'm not saying fire that person right away, but write them up so that they know it's serious enough to where if they keep making that same mistake, like backing up into a house, that happens. You don't expect roofs to be that low. Maybe you don't check the height of all roofs, but I guarantee he's never going to do that again, which is why we wouldn't want to fire him for that. As opposed to if we fire him and get a new guy, he's got to go through that painful lesson as well. That's a good point. Yeah. But it should be written up. Now he knocks down 2 or 3 more roofs. We're like, bro, have you not learned your lesson? And that's where it comes down to making sure that they understand. Let's have risk management here. Let's see what we're doing. Yeah.
So if you're starting a business or in a business, don't underestimate the importance, 1, of insurance, but 2, quality safety checks and the importance of keeping the people that make the mistakes so that they can keep you from making those mistakes again. And they're almost that. They're almost helping be an extension of your safety.
I love it. Thanks, man.